Welcome, everyone, to the Coin Bureau podcast. My name is Guy. This gentleman's name is...
Mad Mike Mooch.
And we are very, very fortunate to be joined today by one of the first ever guests on the Coin Bureau podcast, none other than Nate Whitehill, the founder and CEO of Cryptoslate. Nate, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me, guys. It's an honor to be here.
Likewise, it's an honor to have you. And for anyone who hasn't heard of Cryptoslate before, Cryptoslate is a crypto news and information, opinion, data platform. It's an amazing resource. It's one of the first places I go every morning. When I switch on my computer, Cryptoslate is right up there. To go and see what's happening in the space, get an idea, and I switch it on and just hope that it's good news.
Cheers! Thank you so much for that.
It's there's not a lot of good news around at the moment, but so Nate, so tell me, you obviously, as I say, you're the founder of Cryptoslate. Can you tell us just a little bit about your background and how you came to found it?
Sure. So I've been, I would say, pretty deeply involved in the crypto space since 2015. I previously had a tech background, so I'd started and launched a handful of technology businesses over the past decade and a half or so. Some of them raised capital. Others were just kind of, a combination of product and service businesses and did some consultation. But in 2015, I was living in Seattle, and one of my best friends, who's a hedge fund manager in the traditional finance space, told me to download Coinbase, and had no idea what it was, just thought, this is a place where you buy cryptocurrency. Hadn't really done too much research or deep diving into crypto. But as soon as I bought my first Bitcoin, I felt kind of invested in the ecosystem.
Yeah.
The price was around $270 at the time.
You
So it had come down from about a peak of $1,000.
Yeah.
So this is right, kind of summertime. Soon afterwards, one of the Bitcoin core developers named Mike Hearn wrote a pretty scathing post about Bitcoin, calling it a failed experiment. So there was a lot of FUD at the time.
Yeah.
Everyone was still questioning, is this industry going to exist? Is it going to be around? I had a lot of faith in it because of Coinbase. Coinbase was a very easy to use app. It was a great experience. It was really kind of the go-to place, I feel like, for a lot of people that were first kind of getting into crypto.
Yeah, especially I think after Mt. Gox as well. People were people coming to, because I remember that I sort of discovered Bitcoin sort of at about the time that Mt. Gox was imploding. Mm-hmm. And it was something that, it really made me kind of back away for a bit, because I was just like, this is so insanely risky. Yeah. Not realizing at the time, obviously, that it wasn't the fact that Bitcoin itself was risky. It was this service that we were using to interact with Bitcoin, to get our hands on Bitcoin, that was risky. And that was a really important lesson. But it's interesting that you say that you were kind of led to it by someone, because as you say, you're a tech background, but you were led to it by someone, a friend of yours who was actually working in finance.
Yes, exactly. And I had first heard of Bitcoin probably in 2012 or so. I was running another company called Highlighter.com, which was in the education technology world. But at the time, 2012, just saw it, heard, read headlines on it, but didn't really take it seriously. But when 2015 came around, I knew it was obviously previously came from a high of around $1,000. I believe this would have been kind of November, December 2014 or so, was when it hit its previous high. So I thought, there's some potential to, hope it get back to its all-time highs. About 6 months or so afterwards, after I first bought Bitcoin, Coinbase added Ethereum too. And this is where my mind really started to go deeper down the rabbit hole about, Bitcoin did one thing really well, it seemed like kind of be digital gold, or potentially a hedge against inflation, although I'm not sure we can call it that in its current state right now.
Not right now.
Yeah, but Ethereum, really kind of intrigued me. And at that point, I was learning about the Ethereum Enterprise Alliance, which was developing all these partnerships with some of the biggest companies in the world, like Microsoft, for example. And that's when I really started to go, okay, this is something that is much more than just digital money. It's digital application in a decentralized way. And that's kind of at the point where I started spending tons of time on CoinDesk, Cointelegraph, CoinMarketCap, and kind of seeing the world from two perspectives, like the qualitative side, like the news and analysis, and the quantitative side, like being able to look at the prices and the forecasts and the volumes, all the actual quantitative data. So it was at that moment with my tech background that I realized this might be a good idea for me to build something myself that combine the qualitative and the quantitative.
Right. And so obviously, yeah, with a tech background, you presumably it wasn't much of a stretch for you to kind of, for you to have that light bulb moment, for it to kind of all click and make sense.
Yeah, exactly. We were, at the time, the first website that was trying to do a combination of the news and analysis, but also have a full directory of all the crypto assets. So we integrated with quite a few APIs. We started building out the site all in WordPress. I've been using WordPress since 2006.
Wow.
So we've built a lot of different sites on WordPress. We've kind of seen it grow so much as a content management system. So the original idea was to have all of the digital assets inside WordPress as objects in the same way that news posts are objects. So by being able to link to the objects to each other, we had the goal of being able to provide more context for if you read an article about a particular cryptocurrency and you see real-time chart, real-time price, real-time description of what this crypto asset is. So trying to combine the qualitative and the quantitative. I keep coming back to that, but I think it's something for a lot of people when they get into the space, they're so overwhelmed by one aspect of that. But trying to simplify it was our goal initially.
Yeah. So that was the inspiration behind it. And then so you launched in 2017. Is that right? Because Mike and I have been discussing sort of the history of crypto in previous episodes, and I think 2017 we talked about in the context of Ethereum.
Yeah.
And obviously it just such a crazy time with ICOs sort of happening every week and these insane numbers flying around. And so, it was obviously a sort of prime time to launch this service, to launch this platform, and there were so many people obviously clamoring to get that information.
Yep.
So you launched in 2017, and you were obviously building the site yourself. Mm-hmm. And were you writing for it as well, or were you getting other people on board at that point?
So the one thing I never did was actually write any articles. I built the site myself. We did a lot of the data entry ourselves too. So at the time, there was around 800 coins on CoinMarketCap, and I personally went to every single asset on CoinMarketCap and went to the website. I was really trying to do a very thorough deep dive into what are these 800 different assets? Are they legit? Is the website even up still? What's happening? So we did a lot of very kind of just early initial research. And then once we launched the site, which would have been in December of 2017, within about a month, we organically had about 150,000 unique users coming to the website. Wow. So and that was really the prime time, as we know, too. December 2017 and January 2018 were where we really had those blow off the top moments, and the retail mania was at its craziest. So the timing was perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, and then of course, bear market kicked in.
Yep, timing was not perfect.
Getting timing right in crypto is as difficult as in as in any other sector, isn't it? Because it can change so quickly, and that moment in kind of 2018 when it just sort of fell off a cliff. So that must have been tough, because presumably you saw hits to the site decline as kind of especially retail interest fell off. Mm-hmm. So how was that? Yeah, that must have been a sort of a couple of years at least of sort of very hard work with not quite as the returns that you were perhaps used to.
Yeah, absolutely. It really, I would say, wasn't until maybe September, October of 2018 that we realized we don't have a bull market coming around the corner like we thought for basically the first 9 months of the year after the blow off the top. Everyone thought, a bull market's right around the corner again. People like Novogratz were making predictions that Bitcoin would hit 20, 30, 50K again that year. There was lots of bullish but bullshit predictions.
I think most of them seem to be
very fine line between the two.
No one really knows exactly what's going on with it, and it's everyone just pulls a figure out their arse, and it sort of it's the same with the FUD. It seems to be regurgitated every cycle.
Yeah.
The same articles, the same, just different times.
Yeah. And I think that really is why sites like Cryptoslate are so important, really, because everyone's sort of clamoring for a prediction. Where are we going to be next month? When's Bitcoin going to get to 6 figures or something like that? And the short answer is that no one knows. Mm-hmm. I don't know, you don't know, nobody knows, because we can't predict the future. I mean, we can look at the charts, we can look at the news coming out of places like the Federal Reserve, and we can make educated guesses. But there seemed to be, especially in that kind of mania of 2017, like people just wanted the crystal ball sort of treatment. But I guess the important thing is just to get the information that's out there and present it in a way that someone who doesn't want to go digging across half the internet to find it, that they have access to that, and they can draw their own conclusions from what they read.
Yeah, absolutely. That 2018 to 2020 time period was tough in the sense that we knew the market would come back eventually. We just didn't know when, but we had to run as lean as possible. Unlike a handful of other crypto media that started during the time, like The Block and Decrypt, Crypto Briefing. The Block and Crypto Briefing both raised venture capital at the time, and Decrypt was a spin out of Consensus. So they kind of had, we raised a very small round when we first started from friends and family, but for us to continue during that time and run as a business was tough. But what we emerged into with the recent bull market and how strong we are now, it's all been worth it in terms of it was a struggle entrepreneurially, but now, especially over the past year and a half now, things have been incredibly strong. So that's one piece of advice I'd have for anyone that is in this bear market, is think about what you can do during this time to pass the time, not just focus on short-term price movements or trying to figure out what the next prediction is that might come true, but to build something that gives oneself a sense of purpose or value during what is, an unknown period of uncertainty for the industry.
Yeah, I mean, it really is unknown, isn't it? The predictions are kind of flying around. Oh, it'll be over by the end of the year. Oh, it could be another couple of years at least. Yeah, and I mean, I guess this is a message that we've been talking about with a few people. Is to try and see this bear market as an opportunity, which is what it is. An opportunity to build, and that sounds to me like is what you were able to do in kind of 2018, 2019. It very much kind of heads down, filter out. I mean, there wasn't really any hype to filter out, I guess, and it's just concentrate on making this thing as good as you can make it.
There's a lot of parallels between sort of a bear market and like a recession, like where if your business can be lean and make it through a recession and then come out the other side, you're going to be set up well. And it sounds quite similar to how you had like the boom period around that Christmas, and then the bum fell out of the market, but you were able to sort of carry on, I suppose, because you were probably quite new, quite small, quite agile, and grow when it's lean, and really sort of explode when it's rich.
Yeah, absolutely. It was challenging, but now when I look back at it, I'm so glad that we went through it, because as we were talking about earlier when starting a podcast, it's like you don't really know the mistakes you're going to make until you make them, and you have to kind of learn along the way. And the same is true for a media business, for having people that we're responsible for or responsible for producing content for Cryptoslate all over the world, and wanting them to do well. And it was tricky, but it was so rewarding to really be in the last bull market that we are. And now, having experienced a few different bull and bear cycles, I know it's just a matter of time before the cycle turns, whether it's 2025 or 2024. Who knows? Yeah,
there's nothing like bitter experience, is there? And it's just it's reassuring to think, well, we've been there before. Okay, this may be bad. We may have had some unexpected and nasty surprises this time round, but we have covered this ground before, and I think that's really important for people new to crypto. Who I think many of them, this will be their first bear market, their first sort of really testing time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So tell me, Nate, so what's your role at Cryptoslate day to day now?
So right now, I'm managing a few different areas within Cryptoslate. So I'm kind of managing the editorial team. I'm not really involved in editorial on a day-to-day basis, but that's something that is the heart for what Cryptoslate is. We're an editorial operation that produces news articles every day, anywhere from 10 to 20 articles on a daily basis about different topics which our team of journalists find interesting. So we're constantly on the search for what is an interesting, compelling piece of news that hasn't been told yet, or if it has been told or it has been shared as a piece of news, how can we bring a differentiated angle to it? So that's kind of one aspect, is the editorial. I also am a programmer for the past, since I was 11 years old, basically.
Wow.
So yeah, I've been building lots of different websites over the years. Only been working on Cryptoslate now. This has been the longest business and longest kind of code base that I've been operating on now for almost 5 years. So I do a little bit of coding here and there. We're also in the process of fundraising. I kind of manage the sales team. So it's a lot of different, CEO stuff. But as much as I can sprinkle in the programming and the coding side, that's something that I enjoy so much. It's just there's a dopamine feedback loop about coding, and I think in a bull
Not
market.
for me. I mean, you know what? Maybe if I knew how to bloody code,
Yeah.
I can see how it might be addictive.
Yeah, absolutely. So in the same way that traders in a bull market experience the dopamine feedback loop of just hitting the buy button and seeing their accounts go up, it's similar for writing a piece of code and having it execute, and oftentimes having it come out better than you envisioned in your mind. That's a very fulfilling thing.
Wow.
I've got a question. So you had no sort of journalistic or editorial experience before setting up Cryptoslate?
Yes, that's correct. I did have experience working with other entities setting up blogs. So one of my previous businesses was a blog development company back in, this would have been 2007. So we worked with Yahoo and Nike to set up some of their first corporate blogs. Okay. But on the editorial and media side, I did have no experience whatsoever.
Did you have like a mission statement or something like that with how you wanted Cryptoslate to sort of be perceived? And how did you go around sourcing that talent to find the right writers if you've never written before?
Yeah, so initially the mission statement basically boiled down to we wanted to report the news in as honest and transparent a way as possible. So one thing that crypto media in the past, I'm not going to name names, but has gotten called out for is not disclosing financial interests. So one thing that's really important for us is that if a writer holds an asset like Bitcoin or Ethereum that they're writing about, they just need to add a little disclaimer at the bottom of the news article that just makes it absolutely clear to the reader that there might be a little bit of bias, and people should always be skeptical and do their own diligence about what these different crypto assets are, not ever rely on someone just to tell them what they should buy.
Yeah, because let's face it, there's nothing wrong with being, with liking one project over another, but it is important that whoever's reading it knows that, because it's they have to know how objective the writer can be.
Yeah, exactly. It's really important, I think, not just for the reader, but for the entity that's kind of representing itself as well. To anytime something there's like a paid advertising thing, that needs to be clearly disclosed to you. That's the law in the UK and the US, and that's unfortunately there's still companies that reach out and they ask, can you guys write something that we pay you for, but you don't have an ad on it? And I'm like, that's literally illegal. And I point them, I link them to the laws on the FTC or
link them to me next time.
We'll take care of it.
Yeah, I'll do a little shout out.
We get so many inquiries like that all the time, and it's like, you've presumably watched a video, at least one video on our channel. You see we don't run ad. You see we don't do sponsored content. Why are you asking me this?
Yeah,
unfortunately,
come on.
Yeah, there's a lot of it around. So how big? So you obviously small beginnings. How big is the team now?
Team is around 15 people right now, mostly kind of in Europe. We have a few in the US. We're trying to hire more in the US. And then we have a few people in Asia too. So we meet multiple times a week on Slack and also on Google Video Chat, where we have 15 different little tiles, and everyone's able to express kind of how they're doing, what they're working on. So we try to maintain as close of a team environment as possible, despite the fact that we're fully remote.
Yeah. And I was going to ask you about that actually, because I remember I've seen on your site for a while now. You've got a button saying we're hiring, and I think this is something we'll circle round to in a bit. But I mean, obviously, one of the big bits of news in crypto at the moment is just how many companies are laying people off, and it's horrible to see, and not naming names, Coinbase, but it's but you guys are still expanding. You guys are hiring.
Yeah, so we managed our treasury really well over the past year and a half. Thankfully, didn't hold any UST or have any exposure to any DeFi products. We were just trying to be as conservative as possible, knowing that the previous bear market, it's the possibility for revenue to dry up is very significant. We're not at that place yet, but we kind of had that in our mind that that's something that we want to be able to operate as long as possible. Like I thoroughly enjoy doing what I do day to day, and the opportunities that Cryptoslate has given to me, like moving to London from Seattle, for instance. I came here to operate Cryptoslate because London is a much better city to operate in fintech and crypto than probably any other city in the U.S. except for maybe New York City. So, so that's something that had Cryptoslate never, started, or had Cryptoslate never started, I would never be here. So I feel very thankful for, like I said, the opportunities. And we want to operate Cryptoslate as long as possible. It's genuinely a fun place to be, to kind of have our finger on the pulse of what's happening. I'm sure similar for you as well, being able to, analyze and look at the industry from so many different perspectives and talk to so many different founders.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And to sort of keep that, and again, it works really well for us having people kind of all over the world as well, because, you get those different perspectives, and you get, you get so many different opinions on it. It's much, again, it helps with that objectivity, I think.
Absolutely.
And just before, so I want to talk to you, I want to have a chat really about sort of everything that's, well, we can't really cover everything that's going on at the moment, but, some of the things some of the big stories in crypto over the past couple of weeks. But before we do that, I just wanted to finish up talking about Cryptoslate in general. I mean, so you obviously, as you pointed out earlier, you guys you're fully independent. You don't have any kind of venture capital backing or anything like that. As you said, you raised a bit from friends and family. So you're an independent crypto news organization. And but I mean, do you still? I mean, how do you deal? Do you get pressure from projects and companies to to publish or even retract particular stories? I mean, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that we really need to kind of take into consideration on a case-by-case basis about what someone is asking of us, and is it reasonable? Like if we have an incorrect fact in an article, we obviously want to correct that as soon as possible. Sometimes a company doesn't like what we've written about them, but as long as there's a source for what we're saying, we're not trying to tell people how to think, tell people what investments decisions to make. We're just trying to tell original, interesting, compelling stories that are fully fact-checked, or fully, we have the sources. Even if the sources are off the record, as long as we can verify that this is a legitimate person, that they, give us the information and they provide personal information about them, that's when we'll obviously consider posting something, is when we have a good idea about who this person is and how reputable they could be.
Yeah. And of course, the other side of that is the sort of infamous or famous, however you see it, the kind of crypto communities out there. Because again, Mike, this is something we've discussed a few times and stuff. Like, one of the great things about crypto is its kind of community feel, is how it gets sort of passionate, brings passionate and like-minded people together to talk about some of these amazing projects. But I kind of feel there's a flip side to that as well. And you can, crypto communities, they can be great, and they can also be kind of pretty toxic. And I guess, yeah. So, I mean, do you guys have sort of ever get kind of pushback from crypto communities as well? Or
yeah, it's happened a handful of times over the years. Like a few years ago, we wrote a story about Digibyte. I forget exactly what the context of it was, but the Digibyte founder then posted the article to his following and said he didn't like the article for specific reasons, and the community started coming after us, coming after our Twitter account, the different journalists, and saying kind of mean, stupid stuff. And that just is what it is. Like you said, these are very tribal communities that they're personally invested in the outcome of these different crypto assets. So they tend to be irrational oftentimes if they don't like what they're hearing.
It's such a weird thing, isn't it? I mean, again, it kind of depends, I think, on what side of the bed you get out of. You sometimes think this is great that people are so engaged with it. This is great that people feel passionately about these projects and want this piece of tech to succeed, and want recognize that we're trying, as an industry, it's trying to change the world. And then on other days, you just think, oh my word, just just simmer down. Just can't. It's just crypto, you know.
Yeah, it can be quite insane at times.
Yeah,
but
yeah.